Jeff. Jeff. We will start as soon as JC walks in the door, before he's seated. I know he's here, but. All right, welcome everybody for being here, including you, JC. Never, never. All right. Moving on, welcome everybody. I'm glad to have you here. We'll start off by, let's see, Thursday, we'll have the organization and procedures for the city council, which will be establishment, time, and place of the council meeting, and the election of mayor pro tem for calendar year 25. Thursday will be first presentation of recognition 2024 North Carolina APWA Streets Manager of the Year Award. And tonight, we're number 2, the presentation of 2024 Collection System of the Year Award to the City of Concord's Water Resource Department. So Jeff, while I come down to be part of this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. We get our sewer staff that's here to come on to the front, if you will. And Crystal and Chad, come join me up here. It's always great to have an opportunity to publicly recognize our wonderful staff and their achievements. And we're here again this afternoon to recognize another award by our wastewater team, another annual achievement award. You guys go up there with the mayor, if you would. And for some additional comments, I'll turn it over to Crystal Shipe, our engineer manager.
Just to remind y'all, this award is in recognition of protecting public health and the environment through proactive practices of management, operations, and maintenance beyond what is required of our permit. We've won this award 5 out of the last 6 years, and we plan to keep on applying. And then I wanted to let Chad share his thoughts and appreciation for his guide.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chad Grimm, wastewater superintendent. To my coworkers, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your unwavering commitment to excellence, your resilience in the face of adversity, and your unwavering support for one another. We are truly blessed to have such a talented and dedicated team. Your hard work and dedication is what makes you successful. I'm proud to be a part of this team and to work alongside of each and every one of you. Thank you for your passion, your positive attitude, and your belief in what we do. As we move forward into the new year, let's continue to push the boundaries of excellence. Thank you.
I just want to present the actual award. Together, we stand side by side. This is an amazing award that I'm just so proud to show what all that you guys have done for our community. And it just, to have this honor. Good job. All right. We now move to unfinished business. Number one, continue public hearing in case ZCD 2723.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Calling Alden to come up and provide the staff report to council this evening. As you recall, this is the item that the petitioner requested to be delayed from last month, so she will provide that information to you this evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. This is case ZCD 2723. This is a case that was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their October meeting. And the request to rezone from RM1 to RVCD was denied with a 7-1 vote. At that meeting, one person did speak in support of the project, and then 5 spoke in opposition. So just to give you a little bit of information on the property here, this is 2 parcels that are approximately 13.4 acres on the northeast side of Branchview. It is currently undeveloped. The current zoning is RM1, and they are proposing to go to RVCD, which is a higher density zoning. As is currently proposed, there's a maximum of 80 single-family detached townhome units. Of the 80 townhomes, 48 of those would be front-loaded and 32 would be rear-loaded. The current zoning would allow for 3 units per acre, so that would be approximately 40 units. And the proposed zoning would allow for up to 107 units. However, they are only proposing 80, so it's approximately 6 dwelling units per acre. I'll point out a few things on the site plan. The applicants did provide an enhanced buffer adjacent to the current RM1 zoning. So the CDO only requires an 8-foot buffer. This would be a 25-foot undisturbed buffer. You can see the open space required is approximately 20%. They provide 38%. There are 200 parking spaces. This is 2 per unit, and then 40 visitor spaces. And then there was a TIA completed and approved for this project, and it did result in improvements to Branchview. Those improvements include an eastbound left turn lane with 150 feet of storage, a westbound right turn lane with 100 feet of storage, and exiting traffic from this subdivision would have full access to turn left or right onto Branchview. We did have a question about whether connectivity was met for this particular project, and city staff has confirmed with the applicant's engineer as well as transportation that the connectivity ratio for this has been met, which is set forth in the CDO. A few of the existing conditions at the top, you can see the 2 parcels, and then this bottom you can see sort of where Crestside and Branchview meet there. And this is looking towards Brook Avenue with Branchview here to the south. And this, again, is looking towards Brook Avenue. As you can see, the surrounding zoning is completely residential medium density to the northwest, south, and east. And the 2030 land use plan does designate this as suburban neighborhood. Per the land use plan, single-family attached dwellings are an option for infill development, which we would consider this infill development. And the residential village zoning is a corresponding district to the suburban neighborhood land use. Here are the two recommended statement of consistencies that we took to planning and zoning. On the right, you can see the one that's supporting denial. On the left is the one supporting approval. The only difference in these bullet points are the last bullet point. The one supporting denial from P&Z reads that the zoning amendment is not reasonable and in the public interest as the design is not compatible with the surrounding residential area and adjacent RM1 zoning. There were suggested conditions, as this is a conditional rezoning, compliance with the rezoning plan, and the documents are listed there, compliance with the street tree planting, and then technical site plan and review and approval is required, including all approvals from outside local, state, and federal agencies. So your next steps would be to approve or amend the statement of consistency, and then approve or deny the zoning map amendment with conditions. And if you have any questions for staff, I'm more than happy to answer those.
If you could go back to the diagram showing how they're going to access Branchview.
So they would access Branchview there from the very bottom.
And would that be a light or would that be
It's turn lanes.
just turn lanes?
The light is a little further up.
So you have 80 units coming out of that one drive.
That is what is proposed, yes, sir.
Okay, council, questions?
Yeah, can you go forward to the slide that shows the surrounding zoning? So everything around this property is RM1, all the way around it,
Correct,
completely surrounded. It's an island.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I know, what were some of the comments for the 5 people that dissented, so to speak?
So some of the comments, there were traffic comments. They were worried about the left turn out of Branchview. They were also just worried about density, the additional number of people that could have, there could be an increase in crime or just number of people. But the majority of the comments were focused on traffic.
Other comments?
I was just going to ask, if I may, why exactly, what were the exact reasons that planning and zoning didn't like this project previously?
So traffic was a big one. And going back to the minutes, safety, overall safety. Again, Commissioner Jones noted that she realizes that housing is needed, but it's a tricky thing, especially with the traffic coming out of this particular area. So a lot of it did center on traffic.
Excuse me, wasn't there some conversation about whether it did or did not fit into like the land use plan for, was it 2025 land use plan or 2030 land?
So the 2030 land use plan.
Yes.
So I think it was Commissioner Correa. Let me go in there. He said the 2030 land use plan states that single-family attached dwellings are an option for infill development, but he believes that the neighborhoods should be found within close proximity to suburban, commercial, office, and industrial centers, of which there are none in close proximity.
One more question. Did the traffic study that was done, was it reasonable? And I'm not asking you for an opinion, I'm just, because that's not fair, I know, but for that area, it's a zoo in the mornings and the evenings. Like, I can't imagine not.
I mean, based on what was submitted, yes, I believe it could be considered reasonable.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Under new business, we have Thursday, we'll be getting a presentation by Youth Council President Bailey Barkley. And tonight, we're doing a presentation of Independent Auditors Report, the Annual Comprehensive Fiscal Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Kristen. She's going to come up and introduce our auditor to council this evening, who's going to provide this past fiscal year's annual report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. This afternoon, Claire Earnhardt is here with us. She is from Martin Starnes. Their firm was engaged to do the fiscal year '24 financial audit for the city of Concord. And so this afternoon, she will be giving her presentation on that audit. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start out with some audit highlights. First of all, I just want to thank you for allowing us to be your auditors. We always look forward to working with you all. This year, we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements in all federal and state programs except for Housing Choice Voucher, which was qualified. An unmodified or clean opinion is issued when an auditor can state without reservation that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with GAAP. A qualified opinion is when the auditor has identified misstatements or issues, but the misstatements or issues are not pervasive. The financial statements are still largely reliable despite the identified issues. I will discuss this in more detail later on in the presentation. I do want to note that we tested 7 major programs. Some were federal and state, and some were state major programs. And I'm going to discuss performance indicators towards the end of the presentation. For the fund balance in the general fund, in 2022, this fund balance available as a percentage of net expenditures was 57.1%. In 2023, it was 44.5%. In 2024, it was 39.6%, which was calculated as the fund balance available excluding Powell bill of $61.3 million over net expenditures of $139 million, for a total of 39.6%. The LGC minimum fund balance available percentage is 25% for units with general fund expenditures above $10 million, or that represents about 3 months. The average of similar units is 46%. For your general fund summary, in 2023, revenue was $144 million and expenditures was $141 million. In 2024, revenue was $135 million, and expenditures was $142 million. Revenue decreased $8 million, or 6%, due to, in the prior year, there were large transfers from ARPA and General Capital Reserve Fund that did not reoccur in the current year. And expenditures increased $837,000, or less than 1%, so we would consider that comparable to prior year. I do want to note that on this slide, the expenditures includes transfers out, and the revenues includes transfers in. For your top 3 revenues in the general fund, total revenues is $133 million. The top 3 comprise $113 million, or about 85% of total revenues. Ad valorem is 58%, other taxes is 22%, unrestricted intergovernmental at 5%, and the remaining other revenues make up 15%. Other revenues includes things like restricted intergovernmental, license and permits, and investment earnings. For your ad valorem taxes, this was $74.4 million in 2023 and $77.7 million in 2024. This was a $3.2 million increase, or about 4.4%, so we would consider that comparable to prior year. For your other taxes, it was $29 million in 2023 and $29.3 million in 2024. This was a $350,000 increase, or about 1%, which we would also consider comparable to prior year. For your unrestricted intergovernmental revenues, this was $6.3 million in 2023 and $6.7 million in 2024. This is a $428,000, or 7% increase, and that increase was due to increase in utility sales tax. Now for your top 3 expenditures in the general fund, total expenditures was $122 million, and the top 3 comprise $100 million, or about 82%. Public safety was the largest at 50%, public works at 16%, general government at 16%, and other expenses at 18%. Other expenses include things like planning and community development, capital outlay, and debt service. For your public safety, this was $56.9 million in 2023 and $61.3 million in 2024. This is a 4.4 million increase, or about 8%, and the increase was noted in the police and fire departments for increase in salaries, operating expenditures, and capital expenditures. Public expenditures was 22.4 million in 2023 and 19.5 million in 2024. This is a 2.8 million decrease, or about 12.6%, and the decrease was in the solid waste department for a decrease in operating expenditures. For general government, this was 8.8 million in 2023 and 19.1 million in 2024. This is a 10.2 million increase, or about 116%. This increase was in information technology due to the IT department coming in-house as of 7/1/2023, and also due to an increase in the non-departmental expenses. For your quick ratio in the electric fund, in 2022, this was 8.2. 2023, it was 14.9, and 2024 was 12.8. This was calculated as current assets of 116 million over current liabilities of 9.1 million to get that 12.81. The LGC would be concerned with a quick ratio of less than 1, and current assets excludes restricted cash, prepaids, and inventory, and current liabilities here excludes compensated absences and liabilities payable from restricted assets. For the quick ratio in the water and sewer fund, in 2022, this was 20.3. 2023, it was 28.7, and in 2024, this was 25.6. This is calculated as current assets of 115 million over current liabilities of 4.5 million to get that 25.6 in 2024. This includes the water fund and the wastewater fund combined and reported on the LGC's data input sheet. The LGC again would be concerned if this was less than 1. Next, I'm going to discuss some compliance findings from the audit report. As noted previously, we tested a total of 7 major programs. The federal major programs were Section 8 Housing Choice Vouchers, ARPA, Public Housing Operating Fund, and CDBG, and your state major programs were the OSBM Regional Economic Development Reserve Grant and the NC Commerce Grant. For your compliance findings, 2024-001 was a significant deficiency over the CDBG program. This was the city did not follow procedures to ensure proper HUD approval of a request for release of funds. 2024-002 was a material weakness and material noncompliance in the housing voucher cluster. The city did not follow procedures to ensure that the HQS were corrected or subsequent procedures to stop HAP were not enforced, and this resulted in $110,000 of question costs. 2024-003 was a material weakness in the Public Housing Operating Fund. The city did not follow procedures to ensure the proper eligibility determinations were made and documented. And 2024-004 was a significant deficiency in the Public Housing Operating Fund. The city did not follow procedures to ensure compliance of tenant participation fund requirements. For your general performance indicators, along with submission of the audit to the LGC, we are required to complete a data input sheet with various financial information. Kristen reviews and certifies this template prior to being submitted. So this template analyzes the data and provides us with performance indicators. So performance indicators could range from things like deficit fund balance or statutory violations or any significant findings. There was one response that is required this year, and it was appropriated fund balance for the general fund in the 2023 budget, and your change in fund balance was negative. So essentially, if the general fund has more expenditures than revenues because of operational issues and fund balance was appropriated to cover the loss, the continuation of this practice could result in deterioration of a unit's fund balance available. This is a performance indicator that will require the city to respond to the LGC within 60 days of this presentation. For some positive performance indicators, there was timely audit submission, stable property tax valuation and collection percentage. The water and sewer operating net income excluding depreciation, including debt service principal and interest, was 7.2 million. The LGC would be concerned if this was negative, but it's positive. The water and sewer unrestricted cash over total expenses excluding depreciation, including debt service principal and interest, was 235%. The LGC would be concerned if this was less than 16%. The electric operating net income, excluding depreciation, including debt service principal and interest, is 36 million. The LGC would again be concerned if that was a negative number, but it's positive. The electric unrestricted cash over total expenses, excluding depreciation, including debt service principal and interest, is 142%. And again, the LGC would be concerned if that was less than 16%. So that's it for my presentation. Are there any questions?
All right, question from council? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. B, departmental reports will be Thursday with Parks and Recreation bond update and downtown streetscape update. Public hearings, we have one scheduled. Conduct a public hearing, case Z-1524, consider adopting ordinance amending the official zoning map.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Alden to come back up and provide this staff report to council.
Good afternoon again, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. This is case Z-1524. This one was heard by Planning and Zoning at their November meeting, and this is a rezoning with an associated land use plan amendment. This is one parcel measuring approximately 0.43 acres, and the applicant is proposing to rezone from general commercial to residential village in order to construct 2 single-family homes. You can see here where this is located on Sherwood Court. Down Concord Parkway, you can see the commercial businesses. And then on the picture to the left, you can see the new single-family lots, which are part of the Sherwood Hills neighborhood. For the surrounding zoning, to the north and east of the parcel is general commercial. To the south and the west is residential village. So the request for this rezoning represents an extension of the existing and surrounding RV zoning designation. For the land use plan, given that this is currently zoned commercial, the land use plan also designates this as commercial. The proposed RV zoning is not listed as a corresponding zoning classification to the commercial land use category, and therefore we are asking for a land use plan amendment for this to be changed to urban neighborhood. The request for this land use plan amendment represents an extension of the surrounding urban neighborhood land use category. And you can see that to the west. Here is the statement of consistency from Planning and Zoning. You see the one on your left supporting approval from P&Z. The one on your right is supporting denial. You can see here that the last bullet point is the only one that has changed. And from Planning and Zoning, the zoning amendment is reasonable and in the public interest, as it is consistent with the existing zoning adjacent to the subject property. So your next steps for this one will be to approve or deny the statement of consistency, approve or deny the zoning map amendment, and approve or deny the land use plan amendment. And if there are any questions for staff, I can answer those.
All right, any questions from staff, from council?
Was it unanimous decision?
I like
Planning and zoning?
unanimous decision, yes.
Thank you.
Are the properties, if you go back to that map that, that one, is everything past the subject property going down Sherwood, is that all zoned residential already?
Yes,
Okay, and that's never been changed? It was residential like from,
not recently,
okay, no recent change. Okay. Just this one is commercial?
correct.
Sort of.
Had a little commercial building on it, did it not?
It did at some point. Now it's just I believe it's a shed.
Beautiful lot.
Other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on, we have, council has requested to, in the presentations and requests, to move 3 items from the consent agenda. Item J, which you consider adopting a budget ordinance to establish housing reposition fund. That's moving that one to, and making that item 9. K, consider adopting American Rescue Plan Fund Grant Project Budget Amendment. That K would go to number 10. And Q, consider approving changes in the rate and charges schedule for utility billing. That Q would go to number 11. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved, Mayor.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Raise your hand. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. So now we're going to be going into the presentation and petition requests. Number one, consider adopting a resolution authorizing eminent domain action on a parcel located 620 Main Street Southwest.
You may recall that we brought this item to you a couple months ago, asking for a resolution to begin eminent domain for a sewer culvert easement. And at that meeting, it was determined that the property could perhaps hold a tiny house, and so I believe that's the plan. So we are asking to pursue eminent domain for the entire parcel. If you may recall, this parcel is the one that was bisected by a sewer easement, which called into question whether it was usable or not. This is also the parcel, we believe it to be abandoned. The record owner passed away in 2018. No estate has ever been filed for Mr. Helms. His spouse is also deceased. We do believe there is an heir, but we do not know how to contact that person, but we will continue looking for that contact information. We will also post a giant sign on this property so that if anybody knows anything, they can come and contact us about that. The tax value of the parcel is listed by the tax assessor at $14,400, and that amount will be deposited with the court as fair market value for the taking of the property. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
All right, any question from council?
What happens to the 14,400 if they never claim it? What does the
Wonderful
court do with
question,
that?
wonderful question. So that, if that money, if no one comes forward to claim it, to begin with, taxes are owed on this. So some amount of it will go to the county for back taxes as part of the litigation. Whatever is left over will be sent to the state to hold in the Escheats department. So the state will hold that until such time as somebody comes forward to prove that they, as far as I'm aware, yes. It's an odd situation.
JC?
I think you answered this. This property's got about 10 years of unpaid taxes. That will come out of the money that, before we pay into the
Yes, sir.
whatever. I'm not gonna say that phrase, because.
We made up that word just for you, Mr. McKenzie.
All right, other questions? All right. Number two, consider approval amendment to clarify the restrictions of the real property located at 9 Powder, 11 Powder, 13 Powder, 15 Powder.
Right, so this property was sold to WeBuild, subject to necessary and appropriate restrictions. One of the restrictions was, this property is a little bit different to begin with than the ones that we have sold to WeBuild in the past, because it's a larger property and it's going to have or has multiple units on it. So of the multiple units, the restrictions state that 75% of the units must be kept as affordable housing, while the remaining 25 can be leased or marketed at workforce or market rate. The closing attorney in a recent sale of one of these workforce or market rate units, one of the 25%, has requested an amendment to the restrictions to clarify that those 25%, once they're selected and sold at workforce or market rate, are no longer subject to the requirement of affordability. So if Mr. McKenzie buys one of these workforce homes and later, 20 years from now, he wishes to sell that home, he can sell that at market rate rather than have to have a qualifying affordable housing buyer. And I can answer questions to the best of my ability, and if I'm unable to answer that, Mr. McKenzie can probably do it.
Just comment, Mayor.
Go ahead.
WeBuild is intentionally trying to not build all low-income housing in one area. So we are intentionally trying to mix income in the properties. That said, this one unit out of 4, there's 4 on this property. That money goes back into the WeBuild coffers, and will then be reinvested in affordable housing. So it's still 100% of the money that we build is being granted is going to affordable housing one way or other. It's just a intentional mixed income. So I think, is that clear? I make that? Patrick can explain it better than I can, but I think.
Any more questions?
One just quick point. That sale of one workforce housing will not subsidize those three. So I'll just make that clear. It's just, we have to subsidize these units beyond, on average right now, 35,000 or more through DPA of our own down payment assistance. So it just won't cover it. What I will say is first, I want to thank Ms. Koczynski because she actually responded very quickly within a day to get this, so I want to appreciate that. What I do want to make the council aware is that we're going to come back again because you have Lincoln Street, which was a single lot that's now divided into 26. You have Corbin, which we're working with the city on. That could be potentially divided up into 11. So that same rule would come up with those going forward. But as Mr. McKenzie said, the idea is that you just can't recreate a housing authority basically by clustering all your affordable in one place. It's not going to be beneficial for economic mobility for these people. I think our board has even looked at 50-50, and to be honest, one of the reasons is we are subsidizing right now at such a high rate, particularly as interest rates are so high. So it's really driving us to have to subsidize more and more. Now, the state usually requires that 20% or at least at 60% and below. And then you can have other ranges up to 80%. We actually are on the very high side of that right now. Still over 90% of our units have been sold at under 80%. 100% of our rentals right now, which actually even outnumber sold, are actually under 60%. So we're really far above that threshold. However, this is going to be a matter of, do you want to run your car and burn all the gas out in a few years, or do you want to actually run it and build more over longer periods of time? Because remember, this is supposed to be acted as almost a revolving fund, even as we get other dollars. And I'll talk to you on Thursday about some grants that we've just received in the private sector. But if you keep running it that way, eventually, you just run out because you're just subsidizing so much, even for the ownership.
So Patrick,
yeah.
Jennifer, we're trying to be good stewards of the money that we're responsible for, but we also know that the need for the affordable housing is so great that we're trying every way possible to keep the percentage as high as possible while still being good stewards. And Patrick and I discuss this on about a weekly basis because it goes up and down. It'd be nice if interest rates would get back in the 4%.
If interest rates get down and make it a little easier, not subsidizing as much.
Prediction for 2025, so we'll all keep that hope later. The predictions are 2025. First half of the year is probably going to still remain stable, but we did our predictions yesterday, all of our leadership, and second half of the year, they're saying down in the low sixes, potentially one person said we may see a 5. I don't believe that, but I think low sixes is what we're looking at second half.
But, so anyway, I just, again, I want to thank Ms. Koczynski and actually Josh Smith. Both of them responded pretty quickly to get this done. But this is lessons, I think, as Ms. Koczynski said, we're learning as we go. And this is one of those cases where we're learning as we go. So thank you.
Thank you. Number 3, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a work authorization 2404 with Talbot Bright Ellington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Dirk is up at the podium now. He's going to cover items 3 and 4 for council this evening.
Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Koczynski, Ms. Decent, the request in front of you today is engineering design and bidding for the extension of our air carrier apron, as noted in the descriptions, about 126,000 square feet of concrete. It is in preparation for Avelo. This is something that we have been discussing with FAA for some time, and we feel it's appropriate for us to move forward with this particular project. Funding will be through the bipartisan infrastructure, along with the airport infrastructure grant program, and then a little bit from the Department of Transportation Aviation Department. Any questions?
Question from council? All right, thank you very much. And moving on to number 4, consider authorizing city manager to execute a Omnia contract?
Omnia.
Omnia.
Yes, sir. Want me to say the number for you?
You got that one.
Okay. So in front of you, request is something that we have been working with regarding our airport security plan. We have an access control system that operates both the general aviation and the commercial terminal building. One of the things that we have found over the last several years is some technical failures with our system, and requires us significant upgrades, including access control to the gates and to our hangars in our terminal building. Working with finance, we have determined that we can go outside the normal procurement process like Sourcewell. Omnia contract provides that. Working with 2 vendors on the hardware and software, this has been a significant savings for us if we would actually have to hire a consultant, put together plans and specifications, and then advertise for this. Having said that, the total request that we're asking today is $534,962.64. Our plan is to pay this through our CARES funds. We have approximately $900,000 in change with that. So our balance, if the council were to approve this, would be remaining at $401,014.46. Any questions?
Question from council?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Number 5, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a construction contract with Cinderella Partners Incorporated, renovation of Rocky River.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Jackie's going to cover items 5 and 6 in the agenda for council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. Last month, we opened some bids for the Rocky River Golf Course, the clubhouse. We have planned some renovations. The total bid was $879,000. Improvements include structural renovations to expand the dining area, kitchen renovation, mechanical and electrical upgrades, as well as siding, window, and door replacement, and a new pergola. The contract duration is 365 days. To do this, a budget amendment will be needed in the amount of $77,000 to pay for these renovations, and the money can be shifted from retained earnings golf fund. Any
Question
questions?
from council?
Is the clubhouse closed during that year, Jackie?
No, it will be remained open, so
Okay.
the kitchen will be closed. So the windows and doors really won't affect play. They'll still be able to hold tournaments, but
Bar staying open?
you'll have to ask.
Just trying to take care of my partner here.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah.
talk about maybe some food trucks or something, so maybe we can program that with Jonathan.
Food and bar trucks. Other questions? All right. All right, number 6, consider accepting a preliminary application from Wesley Joyner WJ Homes LLC.
In accordance with City Code Chapter 62, Wesley Joyner has submitted a preliminary application to receive water and sewer service outside the city limits. It's located at 199 Central Heights Drive. It's a 2.4 acre parcel, and it's zoned LDR within Concord's ETJ. It is contiguous to the city limits. It had a single-family home on it, which has been demolished, and Mr. Joyner wishes to build one new residential home on this parcel. Any questions?
Question from council? All right, thank you very much. Number 7, consider making appointments or reappointments to TAC, TCC, and CRMPO. In front of you, you have a list with current members on this. Everybody can pull that out. You should have that. So for the TAC, the current members are council members. McKenzie is a delegate and Crawford is the alternate. For the TCC, it's Transportation Director Philip Graham and a recommended appointment of Deputy Transportation Director Tony Tagliaferra as the alternate. And for the Central Lina Regional Council Board of Delegates, right now we have the current members of Council Member Annie Langford and the alternate is Lori Clay. Be glad to have any discussions you want to have on those.
Yeah, I believe our new mayor pro tem is asked to maybe step down. It's at least maybe go to the alternate or step down completely. Andy?
I can be an alternate, but I think that's up to you. I mean, it's 4 meetings a year.
Is Lori?
4-year.
Lori,
to
are you-
just-
Lori has been keeping up with that, so Lori could become the.
Lori, are you willing to swap to be the
Yeah.
The
the
delegate,
appointee?
okay.
You and I will remain, Jason.
Somebody wants TAC?
Yeah. Anybody else want TAC?
They've been so successful.
So as I'm hearing now,
We built a lot of roads since JC and I did on.
the current members of TAC are going to remain the current TCC with the recommended appointment, the new Deputy Transportation Director coming on, and we'll alternate from delegate to alternate the 2 current Central Regional Council Board of Delegates. Is that correct? All right. And so that actually is, both of those 7 and 8 are covered with this.
And we don't vote on mayor pro tem?
We do that on Thursday. Yeah, that's item number, organization and procedure in city council. Now we're gonna move to item number, got the number here in a second. Item 9, consider adopting a budget ordinance establishing housing repositioning funds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the 3 items that council approved earlier to move from consent over to the regular agenda, all 3 of those items Jessica is going to cover, so she'll cover each one. If you have any questions, if not, she'll just move on to the next one. So Jessica, if you would, begin with number 9. Excuse me? It is under
J.
J.
J, K, and Q are the 3 that we'll be doing.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. So the first item that you wanted to discuss was the one where we're setting up the Housing Repositioning Fund itself. This project obviously has been in the works for a while, but so far the consultant has been paid for out of the Affordable Housing Fund, and we really need to establish a project fund for this project. So there are going to be multiple funding sources for this. So this item establishes that fund so that all the funding sources and all the activity related to this project are in its own fund. And the activity for the current contract for the consultant on this project is just being moved from the Affordable Housing Fund to this newly established fund so that all the activity is there. So that's the reason for the budget amendment from the Affordable Housing Fund, is to move that activity over to the Housing Repositioning Fund itself, so that when we run that report, we can see everything that was connected to that project. So it's money that was already allocated to this, it's just moving where it is.
So the expenses that were charged to the affordable housing are being transferred
Yep.
to this new fund, which is then going to get funded by this next item?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, all of that will be moved over, and it's just kind of trying to clean that up and get that fund fully established. So the second item is the 2 million. If you remember back when American Rescue Plan funds were first issued, we kind of held 2 million aside for this project. And so that money is still sitting in the ARPA fund. That ARPA fund is about done, so we need to really close that fund out. And so this is money just getting transferred over there that has been planned for this project. And again, just trying to get that fund established for that project so that as it keeps moving, it's fully established. So any questions on that budget amendment from the ARPA fund?
Have we maxed out the ARPA fund, or have we zeroed out?
It's very close. There's a little bit still from Salvation Army to be reimbursed. They've been submitting reimbursements for what was approved for them, and so that's really the last piece from it. Yeah, it's very small, but most of it. Well, we have technically already spent the ARPA money. We use that for like general, expenses because it was a lot easier on the compliance end, but the money that it freed up from the general fund, that's the last bit. Yeah.
And just a comment, and we voted on this months ago, but this is a substantial amount of ARPA funds that we appropriated to housing, and I'm very proud of that, very thankful for it.
Okay. So like I said, those two items were kind of connected, all related to just getting the repositioning project established and budgeted properly. The third item that you wanted to talk about was the amendment for the rates and charges schedule for utility billing and collection fees. And so this is something that, as we've been evaluating our current policies, we're actually going through a big upgrade right now of Harris North Star, which is what we use for all the utility billing data. And so as we're going through that, there have been some procedural things we've had to look at operationally, but there, Tammy, who's our customer service manager, has also been looking at kind of best practices. And so one of the things that we realized in doing a lot of that was that our security deposit fees have not changed in a really long time, and they are not sufficient to really help. The whole purpose of the security deposit, if somebody leaves without paying, is to be able to recover those funds that they didn't pay. Our deposit structure was not really sufficient with current bills. So that's really the major adjustment here, is just trying to get those more in line with what we're actually seeing and establishing where there's a set deposit amount per service. So that if somebody just has water, they just pay the water deposit amount. If they have water, sewer, and electric, they would pay all three amounts. Because their bill is obviously going to be a different amount than somebody just has water. So just trying to get that in line. And like I said, this was kind of something that came out of the best practice kind of evaluation that we've been doing as well.
Question from council?
Bill?
I have a question.
So the two attachments to this appear to be the same attachment. One says red line, but there's no red line.
Okay.
So it appears to be the same. So what are, they both say 75, 200, and 75.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. So I do have a red line version. I don't know if I messed up attaching it or what. So the change is currently our water and or sewer service only fee, it was $75, which is what's being proposed for water.
Okay.
And then if they had water, sewer, and electric, it was $150. And there was nothing if they just had sewer and that kind of thing. So it's just, like I said, it's establishing one per service versus this kind of weird.
So what's in the attachment is what we are going to.
That is
That's the revision.
Yes, that is the revision. So yeah, it was just changing from, like I said, the water and or sewer was 75, and if they had all three services, it was 150. And honestly, that probably barely covers the electric bill. So,
I got one follow-up.
okay. And I can get you the red line. I apologize for that not being.
And I think that's very fair. Is there some point, though, that we, after they've made 12 payments or 24, is there some automatic point that these deposits are rebated or
Yes,
refunded?
they can be refunded. It's in our customer service policy. I'd have to look, I might have that.
Do they have to ask for it?
I'll need to confirm. I don't believe, I know we look at whether or not they've had good credit. I really thought I printed that. Oh, there it is. Let's see. I don't have that piece of it in front of me. I'll look at that and I can get you that information. But yes, there are procedures for refunding that once they've established good credit. And if it's a customer that we've had before, they don't have to pay a deposit, and they had good history.
So
Yeah.
if I've been with you for 8 years, I've made good payment, and I sell my house and I buy another one,
Yep.
this is just the initial establishment.
Yeah, and we do, one of the big things that's coming with the upgrade we're going through right now is the ability to run credit checks, which we have not done before. So if that comes back, it would only be in situations where there's something there that we need to protect the city for. So, yeah, it's not in every scenario. That's just what the rates would be if it's determined that one needs to be accepted.
I have one question. Is there a particular reason why this is being done right now versus when we would normally approve fee schedule for 2025?
Yeah, so the reason is because of the upgrade we're going through. That's supposed to go live in January. And so because the program we use for customers to apply is going to change in the structure of that and the way we can collect payments, we just felt like it made sense to go ahead and do this as part of that change. because some of our processes we're going to have to change anyway with the way we manage the deposits. And so this was just a good time to kind of reevaluate that. So that change is going in place in January.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you said they're going from $150 to $200?
For electric service?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're currently $150.
It's $150 if they have all three services.
Okay,
That's
and I
all
see
they
in
would
this
pay,
schedule, it's
yeah.
going to break down.
And so the,
Understand.
if somebody has all three services, their deposit would be $350, because it would be all three added together. Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna get back to this on deposit?
Yeah, I will go get that section out of the policy and get,
That'd be good.
yeah.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
No more changes with the consent agenda. So just to, on Thursday night, we'll have a presentation by Dole dealing with the Public Art Commission, is that correct? And when are sewer allocations due? Friday, after we have our meeting Friday, and our meeting on this will be next Tuesday.
Yeah, and I would say we need those as soon as possible Friday, because we've got to turn them around and get them to you by Monday for your meeting next Tuesday, which is moved up a week. So it's a quick turnaround time for you and staff, so.
Okay, everybody will have that in by early Friday. And we'll have a closed session Thursday night?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and it'll be probably, yeah. About 6 items on it now. Yeah, yeah. Okay, anyone have anything else they want to discuss tonight before we adjourn? All right, motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. And plan to be at Cabarrus Brewing by 6:30. I'm going to get there about 6. And if you're early, that's fine. We'll go ahead and start. All right, thank you.